is time. It is finally time to talk about the DCEU movie that I have wanted to talk about for a really long time. I, of course, am talking about Man of Steel. It's a huge year for the DCEU. Why not talk about the one that I have not talked about before? I reviewed Suicide Squad. I've reviewed BVS. It's time to talk about Man of Steel, the one that started it all. One second. Oh my gosh. Yes, that is so much better. Yes, I can't do a Man of Steel review without the Superman cape. This will be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie, let's be honest, you just were never going to see the movie. I love the way this movie started out. I love the fact that we got to spend quite a bit of time on Krypton. In the other movies, I mean, it was pretty much just this generic ice rock, and it just kind of blew up, and we never really got to see Krypton in its earlier stages. We find out that they have a culture, they have a system, they have a lot of technology, and they have some really cool animal life. We also find out that Jor-El and Laura have conceived and had a real, live baby from natural fucking. We also find out, as we do in every Superman story, that Krypton is dying and it's going to blow up and it's going to die. Before that happens, though, we get a coup. General Zod and his people try to take over, and they try to basically save the race by controlling everybody and deciding which bloodlines get to live on and shit. We also get to see that Jor-El is a badass, and he kicks plenty of ass in this early part. He beats the shit out of General Zod, which is something that, if young Cal can attest to later on in the movie, about 32 years in the future, that is not an easy task to do. General Zod is pretty badass in his own right, so the fact that Jor-El was able to do that, he earns high marks from this guy here. One thing I was always curious about is after they sent Cal, and then after General Zod and his people were banished to the Phantom Zone in those ships that are oddly shaped like, you know, metal dicks or whatever. I always wondered, after Zod's final threat where he's like, "You think your son is safe? I will find him. I will reclaim what you have taken from us." You gotta wonder if the council got a little bit curious at hearing that shit. You gotta wonder if they're like, hey, so what son is he talking about, and what did you take? You mind explaining this shit? I know it doesn't matter, they're all gonna die anyways, but I'm just wondering if the council ever looked at her with a little bit of stank eye after Zod made those threats. Either way, we fast forward to Earth, and I love the fact that as soon as we get to Earth, we immediately transition into Clark's future as an adult. We get to transition into him being an adult, and we get to see that over the last few years, he's basically been traveling the Earth, taking odd jobs, hiding his identity. He's been saving people using his powers, but doing it in secret because he doesn't know if the world is ready yet to take somebody like him at face value. There are strong themes of purpose and destiny and free will in this one, hence you notice the Matrix babies on Krypton. There are also strong themes of xenophobia and about fear and about stuff like that. I love the fact that this is a Superman movie that takes its character and takes the story very seriously. Probably one of my favorite scenes in the early going is Clark when he's in the bar scene with that douchebag who tried to touch his girl's ass. The douchebag is kind of drunk and he gives the shove. You guys know what the shove is, right? Everybody who's ever been in a fight knows what the shove is. It's where you shove and you're testing your strength against the other person. If you have a good shove, you're gonna feel more confident about the fight. If your shove is completely wasted, or if their shove is stronger than your shove, you might want to rethink how that fight is gonna go. I love the fact that he shoves Clark and it's just like nothing. You know, because Clark is invulnerable and he doesn't get moved unless he allows you to move him. As soon as that happened, I would have canceled. I would have aborted mission. I would have false start, flag on the play, back the hell out of there. I would have tried to high five him or hug him or something. I definitely would not have been sitting there still talking shit. The entire time this is happening, even after the dude throws the can at his head, I'm like, this is ridiculous levels of restraint. If it was me, I would have detached the guy's head and I would have turned it into an origami pretzel, and then I would have played soccer with it in my bathroom. But then we see when Clark goes outside, he does take a little bit back for himself. He gets some revenge. He turns the guy's truck into a kebab, basically. I love that. Again, this Henry Cavill's performance in this movie, for what they were going for, he gives us a more human and grounded Superman. We've already seen plenty of examples in the past with Brandon Routh and with Christopher Reeve. No disrespect to those guys. We've seen the perfect godlike Superman before, the Boy Scout, the goody two-shoes. But this Superman, he's a good dude and he tries to do the right thing, but he's a good guy the way a guy growing up on Earth would be a good guy. He's not like an unrelatable good guy, which is what a lot of people have complained about Superman for years. Over the course of the movie, Clark eventually discovers the fact that he was actually Kryptonian and that he was sent here by his father, Jor-El. The scene where he and Jor-El are talking, yeah, it gets a bit exposition heavy, I guess, but still it ultimately leads to the Superman suit, and it leads to Jor-El telling him that he has to find his purpose and he has to lead the human race. Basically saying that one day they can join you in the sun. I don't know how that shit is possible, but maybe he means that he can fly and that our jets will be able to keep up with him one day. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you hate or love this movie. I don't feel like you can watch this movie without getting chills at that Superman flight scene. First time the Superman flies, it is the epitome of epic. It is the epitome of awesome. Hans Zimmer, who I should throw some love out there for this brilliant score. Hans Zimmer's score, I mean, the way that he flies, the sound boom, everything about it is just perfect. It's beautiful. It's probably the most uplifting and euphoric and awesome sauce moment that I've seen in any Superman movie. Every single time I see that scene, even today, I get chills. That's how great it is. This whole time, we also get to find out that Lois Lane, played by Amy Adams, is investigating Clark after he saves her life during that scout ship thingy. I love the fact that we get to finally see Lois realizing who Superman is, because even as a diehard Superman fan, I have never bought or believed in the notion that Lois could not know that is Superman, even though she claims to be in love with the guy. In this movie, they present it in a realistic way. Lois is a very smart journalist. She's very insightful. She does some investigative digging, and she's able to find out that the guy who rescued her eventually will grow on to become Superman. So later on in BVS, this does pay off as they're both working at the Daily Planet, but she also knows who he is, and I think that's a really awesome thing. Zod brings his threat to Earth, of course, because the scout ship leads him there with a distress signal. And after that, pretty much the second half of the movie is almost non-stop action. And when I say non-stop action, I do mean it's very unrelenting. There's maybe like 2 minutes of peace in the entire second half of the movie. Balls to the wall, Superman taking trains to the face action. Just to throw down with Nomak and Fiora, and Fiora is a real badass in that final scene. I love the scene where he's basically giving Nomak a couple of 2-piece biscuits from Popeyes, and then he picks him up and basically Goku mega punches him into a train yard. That was awesome. And Fiora is a badass chick. She's one of those Kryptonians that moves really fast when she fights. Of course, we get to the big finale and the big throwdown with Zod, and one of the things I do love about Zod is a villain with real motivations and real complexity. I mean, he's not just a guy who's bad for the sake of being bad. In fact, if you look at it from Zod's perspective, he's being good. He's doing what he wants to do. That monologue right before he fights Superman. Krypton is my sole purpose for existing, and because you have basically chosen the humans over us and you have sacrificed Krypton, I have no people, so I'm just gonna kill every single one of your people. This leads to a truly epic-tastic brawl that spans over the entire city and ends with Superman snapping Zod's neck. Depending on how you feel about Superman or a rookie Superman in this film, it might shape how you feel about that. Me personally, I don't mind it because it makes total sense. As far as issues go with the movie, I do think the pacing in the first half of the movie does drag just a tad bit. And mostly that's because they have to set up a lot of stuff and they have to build up this character and they have to go back and show you the relevant parts of Clark's childhood. In that, it still means that the pacing does drag a little bit for the first half. Second half is pretty much non-stop. The other issue I have is that while there is some great dialogue in this film, there is some dialogue that doesn't always gel, and I'm looking at you, Dick Splash. It's one of the most unintentionally hilarious lines in the movie, and some of the dialogue I think just could have been cleaned up a little bit better. One of my favorite and most funniest moments of the movie is when Lois basically has to explain to the doctor at the end of the movie why the thing isn't working. There's no way the writers looked at that scene where she goes, "It's supposed to go in all the way." There's no way they looked at that shit and didn't laugh. In the end, Man of Steel is the best solo Superman film that I've ever seen. It's my personal favorite solo Superman film. I love Henry Cavill. I love the performances. I love the action. I love the serious take. I love the villain. I love everything about this world that they opened up. Of course, Man of Steel is going to get the Superman Prime rating. Those are my spoiler-filled, rushed thoughts on Man of Steel. Let me know what you think about it down below. What was your favorite moment of Man of Steel? As always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.